We always hear reports and have articles written about how forward-thinking Marvel Studios is. When it comes to new properties they might acquire somewhere down the road, like Spider-Man and X-Men for example, and how they've had contingency plans, and then how they approach the end of a giant saga like Avengers Endgame, and how they actually knew the ending of that film years in advance. When it came to Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, I think many of you remember that both of these films were written at the same time and both started to shoot back to back. Like for instance, on day one, they would be shooting a scene for Endgame, then just hours after they would transition on over to the other set where they would shoot a scene from Infinity War. They found this to be a little bit too complex and confusing, and the time management and trying to get everything ready was a little too hard, so they decided to do it the other way. We'll shoot one, and then we'll shoot the other right after it. Now when it came to the writing process, they were actually writing both films at the same time. And as Kevin Feige recently talked about it, which the article is linked down below for you guys, he talks about the idea that they actually knew what the ending of Avengers Endgame was when they were still writing the first initial draft for Avengers Infinity War. Now this isn't just that one scene we're talking about where Steve and Peggy are dancing. They actually figured that the scene of the shield being passed was something that was also going to happen in everything that happens there. Now how they arrived there, of course, is different revisions, which characters are involved, and ultimately who might survive and who might not. As we talked about it before, at one point Iron Man was still alive, but the idea, the initial push towards that ending we see, was something that they came up with right as they started writing it. And as he says in the article and the interview, it was an idea that they had, and ultimately, you know, they sat around the table and talked about what they figure would be a great ending for the two films joined, but also for the MCU Infinity Saga, and all of them agreed that it should be something like this, considering we've seen the journey of Steve from beginning to the end. And you know, it just kind of gives you an idea of how ahead of other people and studios they are. Like you look at the Monsterverse or whatever it is, they're just kind of like tossing things at a dartboard and hoping they land somewhere. And some of the other competitors in Marvel Studios, 3 years out, when they start writing Infinity War, once they're still editing Captain America Civil War, they know the ending to the film coming out 5 years down the road. That's pretty impressive, all things considered.